Hi, this is TapCat, and today we're going to talk about the new XCOM 2 War of the Chosen video that focuses on the new enemies known as the Lost. If you've been watching my War of the Chosen coverage all along, then a lot of this will be familiar, but as usual, we've managed to dig up a few goodies that weren't included in the video, and if you'll give me the next 6 minutes, I'll break down everything we know about the Lost so far. The Lost are victims of the aliens' initial invasion 20 years ago, as depicted in XCOM Enemy Unknown. After the aliens used a green gas to wipe out the population of a number of our cities, they were left abandoned by humanity. But we now know these cities are not completely empty. That gas transformed people into near-mindless zombies who will lash out at anyone who isn't one of their own. That's right, the Lost will swarm Advent troops just as eagerly as they will XCOM soldiers. Individual Lost tend to be weak, but they can travel in groups that are much larger than a standard pod of aliens. In fact, when a mission is set in one of these abandoned cities, we'll be faced with a literal horde of Lost. Once activated, they'll come in waves every other turn, but the sound of explosions draws them faster, and using a grenade will draw another horde on the next turn. If you're wondering exactly how big these waves will be, that will depend. Unlike most enemies, they don't get more health as the difficulty settings increase. Instead, we'll face increasingly larger groups of them as we move up from Rookie toward Legend. So how do we make a dent in the horde if we're playing on Legend difficulty and it looks like a reenactment of Dawn of the Dead is happening on the screen? Well, thankfully, the Lost are vulnerable to a new mechanism in the game called Headshot. Use a simple ranged attack with one of your firearms, and if it kills the Lost, then that action will become free and the soldier can take another. This makes it possible to keep firing as long as that soldier has ammunition and can keep the kill streak going. To be as clear as possible, Headshot does not trigger from special attacks like Face Off and Rapid Fire, and no melee attack qualifies. Attacking with a Ranger's Sword or a Templar's Psyblade might get a kill, but it will not activate Headshot. Likewise, a Psionic attack is ranged, but doesn't involve a gun and will not qualify. Only a vanilla gun attack will work. One final note on Headshot. I mentioned earlier that the Lost will attack Advent if given the opportunity. Well, that gate swings both ways, and when the aliens retaliate, they'll get the same opportunity to generate headshots that we do. Now, this could set up some interesting three-way battles during a mission. If the Lost are closer to the aliens than to the XCOM squad, it'll be interesting to see if they'll focus on each other more than us. The best case scenario is that both groups could be weakened enough that you could easily pick off the survivors. The turn order, by the way, will be XCOM, and then Advent, and then the Lost. And speaking of killing the Lost, it's high time we talk about the ins and outs of doing that. First, there are 3 different types of Lost that we'll have to deal with. The standard variety will have 2 to 4 health and move fairly slowly. The Dasher will have the same health but move faster. That extra mobility makes them the more urgent threat simply because they can potentially get in range for their melee attacks in less time. Finally, the Brute will have more health. We don't know the exact range, but the one in the video had 7, so they'll definitely take more work to bring down. The good news is that regular Lost and Dashers will die automatically to shotguns, but if you're using an assault rifle, bullpup, or pistol, then you'll have to weigh your options. What if your best chance to hit is against a Lost with 4 health, but other targets have just 2? Do you take the shot you're almost guaranteed to hit, but might end your turn even if you do? Or do you take lower percentage shots that are guaranteed kills if you hit them? At least Lost don't use cover, so any soldier with a few promotions under his belt should have a solid chance to hit, especially if shooting from high ground. One way to boost your chances of killing Lost if you're using weaker weapons or fighting brutes is to equip Dragon Rounds. Not only will they increase the damage output, they'll also exploit the Lost's other great weakness, fire. Start one burning and it will panic, run, and ignite any other Lost it gets close to. We won't know exactly how effective that will be until we see it in action, but there's at least a chance of starting a nice chain reaction. For maximum effect, make sure to do this at the start of your turn and not after you've already thinned the herd. A few other things that I expect a great many people to try out are Rangers with Blade Storm and a Hellweave vest, gunslingers with Face Off and Dragon Rounds, and expanded magazines for pretty much everybody. And no, I don't think autoloaders will be a good substitute given their limited uses and how many waves of these things we're likely to face each mission. The last thing to remember is that if you're on one of these city maps, the Lost will keep coming in waves. Forever. There will literally be no end to them, and every other turn will face more. We'll want to keep moving forward whenever it's practical, because staying on the map for too long is likely to result in getting overrun. There is going to be a new piece of equipment called the Lost Lure that, well, acts as a lure for the Lost, and that could help make a break for the extraction point. But one way or another, it's going to be important to remember that our mission won't be to eliminate all the Lost in a city. It's going to be getting out once our objective is complete. Alright, if you found this video interesting, then please give it a like to help other people find it. Especially for a small channel like mine, it can really help. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, you might want to do that, as I will continue to cover War of the Chosen through its release on August 29th and beyond. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. I hope we see you next time.